Hi everybody, Miss Rachel at Farmingdale Public Library here, and today I'm going to show you how to make a warm winter scarf to donate to someone in need or give as a gift. For this activity, you will need some fleece cut into a long, narrow rectangle. I have here cut 9 inches wide by 60 inches long, but you could use smaller measurements for a child's scarf. You'll need a sharp pair of scissors, and you'll need either some fabric paint or some fabric markers, or if you don't have those, you can also use permanent markers like Sharpies. You might also want to use a ruler for this craft, and if you have any stencils, those would also help make a nice design. So shall we get started? So the first thing that we're going to do is fold our scarf in half and make it as even as possible. If there's any parts that are selvage, which is this rough bit from the manufacturing process, we're going to trim it off so that our scarf is symmetrical. As you can see, I have a little bit extra over here, which I'm going to just trim off quick. Okay, get rid of that. And I'm going to trim off the selvages over here. As you can see on the inside of the fabric here, it's very rough compared to the softness of the fleece. So that's the part we want to get rid of. Once you have your fabric evened out, we're going to fold the fabric. So see how I have both my layers here? I have my fold over here. We're going to be cutting on this side of our fabric to make fringe. Now, if you have a ruler for this step, it will be a bit easier to do, but if not, that's okay. You can use your fingers instead to measure. We're going to be making fringe that is about as long as our fingers, so about 3 to 4 inches long, and about 1 inch wide, so about as wide as my thumb is here. But if you'd like to do wider fringe, you can. However, wider fringe will not tie as neatly, and if you'd like to do thinner fringe, you can as well. However, the more fringe you make, the more you will have to tie. Now, if your scissors are really sharp, try to cut through both layers at the same time, because then they'll be even. Okay, so I'm cutting a nice fringe that's about as long as my finger into the scarf. Now I'm going to keep going and do all of my fabric this way. Alrighty, everybody, as you could see, I now have 2 layers of fringe here that are even. So I'm going to open up my scarf a little bit, and we're going to be working on just one side at a time now. With my fleece, I'm going to line it up, have it be nice and flat, and I'm going to start tying my fringe into knots. Now, the reason why we wanted it to be longer and thinner fringe is so that it's easier to loop around and tie into a knot. You can either do a double knot going across this way, if you'd like it to have an X-shaped pattern, or you can knot each one individually. So I'm going to take my fleece, I'm going to wrap it around one of my fingers, tuck it up, through, and pull it tight. See, I have one knot here in my fringe. This is to keep the fabric from shredding. I'm going to go across the entire side of my scarf, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the other side of my scarf. So they'll look exactly the same. This is also why we cut our fleece in 2 layers at the same time, so that the fringe would be exactly the same on both sides. Okay, my friends, as you can see, I now have both ends tied off, and there's a nice fringe on either side with some knots. Now, instead of doing a single loop knot, you could have gone across in an X shape, but that will make your fringe significantly shorter. If you want to do an X-shaped tie pattern, just make sure that you pull your fabric flat afterwards, and be sure to cut your fringe a little bit longer so you have enough room for it to look nice. But once you have your scarf tied the way that you'd like, all that's left to do is decorate it. So find which side of the fabric is the outside, which is the nicer, smoother side. Most fleece is reversible, but sometimes one side is a little bit nicer than the other. And we're going to decorate it. Today I'm going to use some fabric paint, but you could use whatever you'd like. I'm going to take my white fabric paint and draw some snowflakes. All right, everybody, and when you finish decorating your scarf to the way that you like, you can let the paint dry. Notice when I was making my scarf here that I've only decorated half of my scarf. The reason why I did this is because fabric paint, like I have here in this bottle, takes a little while to dry, and unless you have a really big table, like a dining room table where you can leave it undisturbed, it's a lot easier to decorate one side and then let it dry. Or, if you can hang it off the side of your desk and no one will bump into it, you could decorate the whole thing and leave one side suspended in order to have the whole thing dry at once. But when you're satisfied with how you like the design of your scarf, let your fabric paint dry. If you've used Sharpies instead of paint, you can go over them with a dry, hot iron to help set the ink a little better, which will make your scarf machine washable. If you've been using fabric paint like I did today, this will be hand wash only. It's not generally good to put fabric paint into a washing machine, but you can still wash it in the sink. So I hope that you had a good time making a scarf with me for the winter. And if you give it to someone, I'm sure they're going to love it. Or if you keep it yourself, I'm sure you're going to get a lot of compliments on your custom design. So I hope you had a good time, and I'll look forward to seeing you again soon in some of our other programs. Have a great day, everybody. Stay warm.